State 4, Samadhi or state of final merger into God. Introduction. Simran or remembrance is the first state. Bhajan or joyous adoration of the word is the second state. Dhyan or passive contemplation is the third state. Samadhi or state of final merger into God is the fourth state. One is advised to learn about Simran, Bhajan and Dhyan before learning about Samadhi. This commentator is reading about the book. This commentator is reading from the book The Radiant Sameness, written by Professor Somraj Gupta. It is available on Amazon.com. You can also visit the site samtavad.org, samtavad.org. Mangat Ram Ji revealed Mahamantra, Om Brahm Satyam Nirankar Ajanma Advait Purkha Sarvyapak Kalyan Murat Parmeshwarai Namastam. Please visit the site samtavad.org, samtavad.org for more information and see the description below. Saying 41, page 215, The Radiant Sameness. When the buddhi, the faculty that determinates, comes to stay still in the word, discarding all its determinations, and ceases to posit, when its sense of the I comes to be completely extinguished, and when it comes to know itself as Brahman itself, then is it that the man of patience attains to Samadhi, that state all effulgent. Comment. When the intellect abides still in the word, all mental concepts are removed. Sense of body identification is completely gone, and a man knows himself to be Brahman only. Such enlightened state is called Samadhi. Saint Mangat Ram Ji was in such a state. His body identification was completely gone. He addressed his body not as I, but this. His life shows that a man is capable of reaching this state. He was Brahman only. Saying 42, page 216, a man who attains to this state of immersion in the self experiences on every side nothing but Brahman. Time ceases to move for him, his self staying apart from the body and from every action and activity. These latter he finds as belonging to the realm of Prakriti, that objective sphere of being, posited by the passion for being. He indeed is the knower of Brahman. He is the teacher of the whole world. From the web of Maya, he has disengaged himself to stay all quiet in his being true and real, finding himself in still passivity, untouched by any action whatsoever. He knows all. He who has attained to this state, his consciousness appeased in full and to perfection. Comment. A man who attains this state of sameness, he experiences Brahman everywhere. He is freed from the cycle of time and action. He sees himself completely separated from his body. He sees all action in nature only. He is called knower of Brahman and a word teacher. He has separated himself from all web of Maya or illusion and is established in his soul. He knows himself to be a non-doer. Such a man knows everything worth knowing, and his intellect is completely appeased. Saying 43, Page 216. The man who is established in Samadhi never becomes active with the body. Apart from his activities, he stays still and stable in Brahman, the sound, nada, that still passivity. In the whole world he finds himself interfused, his love overflowing to each and every being. But in the deeps of his deep, he remains apart from the world, absolutely distant from it. This is the abode highest, the home ultimate of every being, this state of enlightenment. Attaining it, that state of Samadhi, that man of high wisdom loses himself in the Akhand Nath, in the sound indivisible and immortal. Comment. A man that has attained Samadhi state does not become restless in his bodily actions any time. He remains established in Brahman, the Word, all the time. He sees himself interfused in the Word and loves all beings. But in the deeps of his deep, he is detached inside. This state of realization verily is the supreme destination. In this state, that man of high wisdom loses himself in the imperishable world. Saint Mangat Ram Ji had no fear of death. He saw himself completely different from his body. He was the word teacher. He was established in God. He was totally appeased, and worldly pleasures had no charm for him. He knew everything knowable. Saying 44, page 216. Absorbed in word the Brahman, he remains self-same, whatever he may apparently be doing or undergoing. Transcending the duality of happiness and sorrow, pleasure and pain, he stays in bliss the highest, stays in it all unmoved. He is the sage ultimate, and he alone is the blessed supreme. Comment. A man established in Brahman the Word remains self-same in all his actions. He is same in every state. He attains supreme bliss and is free from the wheel of weal, and he is free from the wheel of weal and woe. He verily is true saint and sage. Mangat Ram Ji was a true saint. Many charlatans claim to be sages, prophets and saints these days. They may have book knowledge only and no genuine inner experience. Saying 45, page 216. Within him and without him, he finds himself one with the nada, lost in it, all entranced and ecstatic. In every vein of the body, in every bone and pore of it, he finds the prabhuta of the nada, finds his glory primal and primordial. A seer of the same, Samdarshi is he, this dweller of stillness, this man that has transcended all activities and actions. Comment. He experiences nada the word within and without. He is intoxicated all the time. He feels glory of nada, the word, in every nerve, every bone and every pore of his body. He is Samdarshi or seer of the same. He transcends all activities and actions. Saint Mangat Ram Ji or Maharaj Ji was intoxicated in the word or nada all the time. He is describing his own state. Saying 46, page 217. Deep within him, he finds his self apart and all different from the body and its functions. Only he knows what that state is, that state blessed and blissful. Only he that has thus found his being and self, for that is to find and not to tell and proclaim that state ineffable. Comment. He feels himself to be different from his bodily actions. He alone knows the bliss of this state. This ineffable state cannot be penned, proclaimed, or described. Saying 47, page 217. A man who has attained to the state of Samadhi ever finds himself inactive in the midst of action, distant and apart from every state of being, ungrounded and omniscient. His beginningless passion for the being extinguished, he stays stable, indivisible, and beyond the sphere of three gunas, the three constituents of Prakriti. His body a mere shadow for him. Worthy of every tribute is such a man, and by every being. A support is he unto them, and a base, this rarest among the rarest, this man established in Brahman, this man who has become Brahman. Comment. A man who attains Samadhi state is in activity. A man who attains Samadhi state is inactive in activity, detached, independent, omniscient, desireless, stable, indivisible, and beyond the three gunas, the three binding strands of nature. He sees his body merely a shadow of his self. One who has attained this state is worthy of every tribute and is support of everyone. Rarest among the rarest is such a man who has become Brahman the Word. Maharaji saw his body merely a shadow of his self. He was the rarest among rarest men. Saying 48, page 217. Standing apart from all the ideas, thoughts, impressions, and desires sedimented in him during his long pilgrimage from birth to birth, he remains unperturbed by any pleasure and pain of the body. For the acts of the body and the heart turmoil of the three gunas, the three strands of Prakriti, cannot force him out of that alone into which he has merged. Nameless is that state of his and indescribable. Few are there that can attain to that state supreme, that end absolute. Comment. He has transcended every passion and remains unperturbed by any pain and pleasure of the body. He maintains awareness of his self all the time. He maintains his peace of mind in all bodily actions and turmoil of the three gunas, the three binding strains of nature. He is liberated and enlightened. His state is nameless and indescribable. Only a rarest among the rarest attains this highest goal. Saying 49, page 217. A man who remains established in the Lord each and every moment, giving up every passion for the things of the world, whose one anchor is only the nada, the sound imperishable, he alone can attain to this light supreme, this state without its other to negate it. Comment. A man is established in God each and every moment and is detached from every worldly object. Supreme imperishable nada, the word, is his only support. He alone can attain this state of supreme light and non-duality. Saying 50, page 217, the radiant sameness. The pleasures of sense and motor organs ever lead the mind astray. Therefore, the man who has decided to burn himself into his true being ever keeps it. His mind, away from the functions of his organs of cognition and action, and focuses it ever on the name of the Lord. The vasanas of the body, its passions and urges, he leaves to the will of the Lord to decide about. As for himself, he remains ever awake, every minute and every hour, toward the Brahman resounding within him. He is the man to attain to Samadhi, this man suffused with this kind of fervent devotion. Comment. Mind is led astray by pleasures of sensory and motor organs. He, the supreme ascetic, detaches his mind from sensory and motor organs and attaches it to the name of God. He surrenders all bodily desires into will of God. He is awakened into Brahman, the Word, every minute and every hour. Only a man with such a fervent devotion can attain the state of Samadhi. Life story of Mangat Ram Ji is a testimony that a man can reach such a state. Saying 51, page 218. The fate of those caught up in the whirl of action awaits those charlatans who have not attained to Samadhi and yet boast of their knowledge of the ultimate. Proclaiming themselves as divine incarnations or word teachers, they would guide and redeem the entire world. Life after life will these impostors remain immersed in the mire of karmas and their results, the possibility of their deliverance remaining distant from them. One should remember that a man requires surpassingly hard effort to reach this desire-free state, this state of establishment in Brahman. He must have faith in the word of his teacher and should have no interest in and hope from the affairs of the world. And, above all, he must live in the presence of a seer of the ultimate truth. He should understand that only that man can attain to nada, the Brahman, and can stay still in it, the man who ever perceives his body decay and die, and who, freeing himself from all the passions natural to the body, ever stays steady in contemplation of the self. Comment. Many charlatans have not attained to Samadhi, but only boast about achieving it. They fraudulently proclaim themselves word teachers and divine reincarnations. They would not be freed from karma mire for life after life. It is imperative to have surpassing striving, faith, dispassion, and company of seers of truth to reach establishment in God. He needs to see his body as perishable in the past, present, and future. He needs to still himself in contemplation of God and free himself from every bodily desire. He alone abides in Brahman, the Word. Saying 52, page 218. The first step towards this blessed state consists in giving up those actions that are ruinous, that is to say, actions sinful. The next step consists in getting oneself initiated into the name by a perfect seer and in resorting to nishkam karmas, actions without a desire prompting them, and dedicating oneself to devotion of the Lord. In other words, he, the seeker of the truth, should give himself to meditation of the name and to adoration of the Lord, giving up all vasanas. All that lies deposited in the mind by way of the impressions of the lives past. With meditation of the name deepening, time and action that keep one moving from death to birth and from birth to death will tend to cease. With their cessation, the person on the path will find Brahman, the Word, within him. This his finding leading him to get absorbed in it, in the Word. Let this be the faith, the holy faith of everyone in search of liberation. Comment. First, a man needs to give up sinful acts. Then let him be initiated by a guru and be firm in practice of selfless actions and meditation. Let him surrender all his desires to God. When devotion to remembrance of the name deepens, influence of cycle of time and action will lessen. He will experience Brahman, the Word, within. Experience of the Word will absorb him into the Word itself. Maharaji or Saint Mangat Ram Ji became absorbed in Brahman, and Maharaji became absorbed in Brahman, the Word, and became Brahman himself. Saying 53, page 219. With faith absolute and with endeavor unsparing, can one reclaim his lost home. Not the prattlers that claim to be liberated, quoting in profusion words of scriptures and sages of old. Foolish are they, for waste do they their time. Foolish are they, for waste do they their time. Desires for pleasures their constant misery and torture. Destroyers of dharma are these prattlers. Many a low and wretched births will be their lot and portion. Comment. God can be attained only with supreme faith and supreme effort. The prattlers who merely talk about him and proclaim themselves to be realized by reciting teachings of sages of old are very foolish. They are tortured by desires of their sensory and motor organs. They are destroyers of dharma or the law. Many a low and wretched births will be their lot. Saint Mangat Ram Ji is cautioning us not to become victims of fraud. Saying 54, page 219. Let his own redemption be man's priority. Not until all his taints and blemishes have been washed away can a man know the real in truth and explain it aright. Those impostors who would win the allegiance and devotion of ordinary people on the strength of their false eloquence and wordplay and fleece the latter for their own gain will be born in infernal conditions, and so will those who follow in their footsteps. Comment: a man should redeem himself first. As long as he has not washed away his own blemishes, he neither can know God nor can he explain him aright. The impostors who spread the net of false eloquence and wordplay and win allegiance of ordinary people to attain worldly gain, such false teachers and their disciples go to hell. Saying 55, page 219. Only that man of wisdom will find the state true and real, the man that has freed his mind from all its taints and faults, and has subdued all desires for the things of the world. For only he the man to remain ever focused on Brahman the sound, and he is the man to live among people as if their servant. No fraud has he, or any despair and regret, or, for that matter, any desire. Freed from every sectarian and ceremonial piety he lives, his life ever given over to the Lord. Comment: a man who has untainted his mind, has transcended desire for worldly objects, has established himself in Brahman the Word all the time, has served others, has lived with a life without fraud, has freed himself from every religious fanaticism, and has lived a life completely given to God, only such a sage can attain the true state. Saying 56, page 219. When a man has been instructed into the secret of yoga, let him interiorize that instruction and meditate the name. And let him make it sustained, this meditation on the name, ever renewing his effort and resolve. With his mind purified this way, he will gradually move on from the state of remembrance to that of bhajan, adoration of the Lord, and from there on to the state of dhyana, passive contemplation, and finally to the state of samadhi. Comment: let a man hear Saint Mangat Ram Ji's teaching and absorb it in his mind. If he practices it again and again, his mind would be purified. Then slowly and slowly, he goes through stages of Simran, Bhajan, Dhyan and Samadhi. Saying 57, page 219. There is no way to attain to and stay in word the Brahman until the senses. There is no way to attain to and stay in word the Brahman until the sense of one's being a doer of actions, that primal darkness comes to be dispelled. Therefore, only the man that is ever focused within himself on the name can find his buddhi, his intellect, stand apart from every action. With his faith in the indivisible and eternal reality, his only support, he, that man the greatest, alone finds the highest samadhi. He alone is liberated from further deaths and births. Comment: doership of actions is verily the primal darkness of ignorance. As long as this darkness is not dispelled, a man is not established in Brahman the Word. He needs to orient his mind to the name each and every moment, purify his intellect from doership of actions, and consider God only as his support. He alone attains the state of Samadhi and is liberated from the cycle of recurrent births and recurrent deaths. Saying 58, page 220, the radiant sameness. The word of experience is nothing but the turmoil of action. Only true devotion to the Lord and true knowledge of the self can cut it asunder to lead one to find the goal highest, that of immersion in the Word, that of immersion in Word the indivisible. Let man, therefore, ever strive to find that, his home absolute, that verily is his highest duty, of him blessed with human birth. Comment. The word of experience is nothing but the turmoil of actions. A man who cuts it asunder with weapons of true devotion and knowledge, he alone reaches the supreme destination. He becomes immersed in the imperishable word. Striving to attain that supreme destination, each and every moment is the highest duty of human life. This concludes episode 1 of Samadhi. It will be continued in episode 2.